you are talking a lot about that ancestral aspect of health. How did our ancestors live differently? What was exactly different compared to how we're living right now?
Yeah, well, it's a completely different environment, right? I mean, they were, for instance, moving. You know, they were out walking on uneven terrain, inclines, declines, exposed to the elements, eating more natural foods, and not exposed to fluorescent lights. They were very much living in cycle with the sun. So there's a deeper connection with everything going on in nature and the individual's health. And what we have in our modern culture, I like to say humans are living in a human tank. You know, we eat processed foods, we live under fluorescent lights, we're sitting in front of a computer all day, we're not moving as much as our ancestors did, we're not eating like they were, and we're certainly not living like they were when it comes to community and like living in a tribe and doing things together. So all those things add up to a very different environment that what we're seeing is in large contribution, this modern tank in large contribution to many of the diseases that we face today, like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, a lot of these autoimmune issues. We don't see them very long in the human spectrum. They only come on course about 100 years ago once we started to change our environment, specifically our food environment. So we feel that what we're trying to do, you know, is get people back in harmony with their biology, to start doing what their genes are expecting of them, to eat the foods they're designed to eat, to move the way they're designed to move, and live the way they're designed to live. And then when that happens, a lot of the symptoms that most people struggle with, like trying to lose weight or poor energy or, you know, depression and things like that, a lot of these things start coming back online. And the human can be feeling much better when they just obey that simple law.
Would you recommend as like a time investment? Because like if we have office jobs, we obviously cannot like live the life of a Stone Age person, right?
Yeah, well, that's a big project that I started working on when I first started this. Was how a human relates to their office job, right? And sitting in front of a computer all day. Because what we're doing is we're flexing all the time. We're rounding our spines, our necks are moving forward, our shoulders are kind of rounding, and our knees are bent, right? And over time, the body starts adapting to that position. And we start to have poor postures, and it results in neck pain and shoulder pain and back pain. So what we want to do, what I encourage people to do, is to move throughout the day. You know, a lot of times in our culture, we think, oh, I'm just going to sit in front of my computer for 8 hours a day, then get up and then go work out, and that's all fine. But our bodies are always adapting to our environment. So what's more important, what I encourage people to do, is to move throughout the day and set a timer, you know, at least every 45 minutes, and get up and go for a walk at least, and then move your body, get some blood flow. And ideally, you're doing some movements within that 2 to 4 minute period where you're offsetting the negative positions that you're putting yourself in when you're sitting. So if you're always flexing your back, or let's say you're hunching all the time when you're working, when you get up and move, that's a good time to start moving your shoulders backwards and to extend your mid back and go the other direction to compensate the situation, or really the position that you're in. So there's lots of ways that you can incorporate movement, better habits throughout your day.
How about the depression aspect? Does that also influence? Is that also influenced by those things?
Yeah. So there's been some interesting studies where there was a Harvard professor named Amy Cuddy. She did a great TED Talk, and what she found is that your body position largely impacts your hormones and how you see yourself and how others see you. So what we have with that flexed posture, that slumped posture, what we know about that is that it negatively impacts your hormones. So your testosterone would go down, your cortisol would go up. So you're in a more stressed out state. It's a more fear-based state where you're thinking more fearful thoughts, feeling more fearful feelings. It impacts your confidence and your courage and your ability to do things. And when you're feeling a lot of those things, it's easy for depression or anxiety to come in. And what we know also is that the opposite happens. When you put yourself in a good position, when you're aligned, when your posture is where it needs to be, your neck, your ears are in line with your shoulders, you're tall, you're strong, the positive impact happens on your hormones. Your cortisol goes down, your testosterone goes up, your confidence and courage goes up when you put yourself more in a power position. So it's important to know that when we're slumping in front of a computer, when we're texting over our phones with the forward head, when we're sitting on the couch, when we're driving in our cars, Our bodies are always adapting. So our movement protocol and what we're trying to do should be to restore our posture and get us back in a good position. And when that happens, there's lots of positive chemical changes that happen. Happiness, productivity, courage, confidence, all those things start to come online.
How do you think of autoimmune diseases and allergies? Like, how's that related? Is this also like a lack of movement, or is it more like a nutrition deficiency or eating the wrong foods, or what do you think about that?
So most autoimmune issues all originate in the gut, right? A compromised intestinal lining. So our gut is really responsible for our immune system. And it's also where, when it's working properly, the intention of the gut is to break down your food, absorb all the nutrients and vitamins and minerals from your food, but it's also to eliminate toxins and things that the body should be disposing of. So in our culture, we're eating a lot of foods that compromise the gut lining itself. You can think of the gut lining as like a hose with water going through it. And when we eat foods that compromise the gut lining, it's like you're poking holes in the hose, and you're allowing fluid, in this case foreign proteins, to get into the bloodstream when they should be proteins that should be discarded. So foods like gluten, gliadin, a lot of these toxic fats like safflower oil, canola oil, the foods that are in our modern system, a lot of those foods essentially poke holes in our intestinal lining and allow foreign proteins to get inside of our bloodstream. And when that happens, the body, it's like enemy crossing the boundary. It thinks it's under attack all of a sudden. An autoimmune issue is when the body starts to attack itself because of a compromised gut system. So if you have an autoimmune issue, the first thing you have to do is to stop eating foods that compromise the gut. And that's largely the foods I was talking about, like grains, gluten, conventional milks, toxic fats. Those are the big issues. And you want to start consuming foods that help seal the gut lining and improve that. So that's where collagen, bone broth, things like that can come into play. And that way you improve the function of the gut. And we see a lot of autoimmune issues go away without medications when people do that protocol. That's the protocol we talk a lot about in the 30-day reset.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode of Svencast again.